Mr. Super Patriot himself, Jim Comey. Our friends at Judicial Watch have just obtained some very compelling documents. Little old Jimbo, well, that he probably doesn't want to see or to know about. As it turns out, in June of 2017, 1 month after Comey was fired, well, the FBI, people that he used to be the boss of, agents showed up at his door. Why didn't we find this out sooner? They were there to retrieve his classified government memos that he was storing in his home, which is illegal. The agents also grilled Comey about the documents during an interview. By the way, that would be called an interrogation for the rest of the world. And keep in mind, these are the very same memos about his confidential communications with the President of the United States. Comey leaked those to the media through a professor friend of his at Columbia for the purpose of spurring a special counsel investigation. Now, Mr. Super Patriot Comey never should have had those documents at his house. And oh yeah, leaking classified material is a crime. Now, I don't think this is his biggest crime, in my humble opinion. I've told Super Patriot Jim Comey many times before, I'll say it again tonight, Jim, you have the right to remain silent. My advice now more than ever, you need to shut up. Take my advice. Joining us now with more, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. This is a big discovery. And I'll be honest, as far as the sins of Jim Comey and things that I think are important, the legality issues of it, this is, the low-hanging fruit. This is the least important. What he did on FISA and elsewhere will be far more important to the American people over time.
Well, it's part of a piece, and Comey took the FBI files he had on President Trump, kept them at his home, which was illegal, taking someone's FBI files and keeping them at your home, and he used them for political purposes. He leaked them to the New York Times to get a special counsel, and coincidentally, his friend Robert Mueller gets appointed. Look, no leak of the memos, no Mueller special counsel. So this is a pretty big deal. And now we know for the first time the FBI was investigating his creation and handling of these memos. And it's a month after he's fired. They show up at his house. They're interviewing him. And he says, well, I have these memos. You want them? Come on, guys. The FBI let these records walk out the door, which is a violation of President Trump's rights. He keeps them there at his house. He doesn't tell them that he's leaking them. He admits to it the next day in congressional testimony. It's a Keystone Cops atmosphere, but unfortunately, the president's the victim here. And the president's the victim of several crimes, in my view, committed by Comey in terms of taking his FBI files, which is illegal, and then leaking them. And that created the special counsel investigation. Even more so than the FISA warrants, abusive as it was, as abusive as they were.
All right, Tom Fitton, we're going to continue to watch Judicial Watch, all these Freedom of Information Act requests. This is important. I have a funny feeling, and my sources are telling me it's going way further than that. Other huge, massive breaking news tonight. Yep, investigative reporter, the Hill's executive vice president, John Solomon, reporting just moments ago that the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, has in fact referred James Comey, we'll put it up on the screen and keep it there, for possible prosecution over leaking classified information. Look at this. According to Solomon, quote, the DOJ's watchdog, the Inspector General Horowitz, is preparing a damning report on Comey's conduct in his final days as the FBI director that will likely conclude that he leaked classified information and showed a lack of candor. It would be lying. That's why a lot of other people just got indicted and they're going to jail for that. Now, despite this major rebuke, the Attorney General is reportedly at this time declining to prosecute. Joining us to break it all down, Executive Vice President of the Hill investigative reporter. I'm taking this two ways because if, in fact, that would be a violation of 18 U.S.C. 793, the Espionage Act, 18 U.S.C. 1924, removing classified documents, is all in Greg Jarrett's book, 18 U.S.C. 641, theft of government documents, 18 U.S.C. 1000, false and misleading statements. Okay, to me, this is the least significant. But there is a guy named Christian Saucier that spent a year in jail because of 6 pictures he was proud of that he took from the submarine that he served his country on that he never shared with anybody. And he went to jail. If this is the Attorney General's final decision, that would be a disaster. That would mean we don't have equal justice or application of our laws. But if the Attorney General is looking into the broader, bigger issues and believes that more severe crimes were possibly committed and can get back to this, I would be okay with that. John.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm reporting. My headline says it all. He's got a day of reckoning coming on leaking, but there is more ahead besides this. I can report definitively tonight that Attorney General Barr and his team at the Justice Department did decline prosecution of James Comey on this narrow charge of leaking classified information to a lawyer that then made its way to the news media. But I can also report that there's going to be a very damning report that will shame James Comey. This is a man that often preaches morality and how he follows the rules. This report will not show James Comey as a rule follower. He'll be a rule breaker for the second time in a year. But the more important thing to watch, Sean, is the ongoing investigation by Bill Barr and what we know about the FISA. There's a quote in my story that says they are learning some very troubling information about the FISA process, and everyone involved, including James Comey, remains under significant scrutiny. So this is a first pass. James Comey gets a break on this one. The report will be damning. But stay tuned.
Let me interrupt you, John. Does it mean if the Attorney General declined to prosecute, but now we know referred Comey for prosecution, that was by the IG, that's not a final determination necessarily, is it?
No, it is. On this matter, this is closed. The Justice Department has decided not to prosecute James Comey.
So Jim Comey's going to get away with something that Christian Saucier did not get away with.
I think a lot of people will look at this and say there's a dual justice system. Hillary Clinton and Comey get one outcome, and people like Flynn and Papadopoulos and Christian and others get a different one. I think you have to look at the bigger picture. The Attorney General here is looking at the possibility, can I win this case in New York? And if I lose the case in New York, what message does it send that a leaking FBI director got off? If there's a better case to be made against James Comey, patience is sometimes the better part of prudence.
How many people got in trouble for lying or lack of candor, to use the terms that were used by the IG?
Yeah, well, there's a lot over the last few years, and James Comey and Andrew McCabe, his deputy, are two of them. But here's the most important part. Well, you just talked about those great documents that Tom Fitton got. When the FBI agents showed up at his house and they collected this information that he had wrongly taken from the FBI, he did not tell the FBI, his own former guys, oh, by the way, fellas, I sent this on to other people. He kept that a secret, which caused the FBI to be in the dark for several more weeks.
Huge news that former FBI, James Comey, referred for prosecution, declined by the Attorney General, but apparently also a lack of candor means they felt he was lying. General Flynn is now awaiting sentencing on such an issue. Same thing happened with Manafort. Same thing happened with Michael Cohen. I think that if the Attorney General, if we're going to have equal justice under the law, there better be other issues here, or this is going to be a very dangerous tipping point for the country if Hillary and Comey get special treatment, but everybody else gets put in jail and prosecuted. That's a problem, John.
Yep, no, absolutely. A lot of people are reacting very strongly tonight. I think Attorney General Barr will be judged on the final product. When he and John Durham get done, when Michael Horowitz get done, what's the final outcome?
I suspect you're right. I suspect there's a calculation that there are bigger issues in play here that we don't know about yet, but we have been on the periphery of breaking. I know enough that there are a lot of other bigger issues about to come down, and so I am giving the benefit of the doubt, knowing what I know, and you know more than I do, and you seem to agree with me.
I do agree with you. The sources are telling me stay tuned. There's a lot more to come down the pike on this
Jim Comey specifically. On him. And on our intelligence people that abuse power.
Yeah, he signed the first FISA. Listen, that's going to turn out to be a fraudulent or misleading FISA. So there's a lot more to come.
All right, John Solomon, huge breaking news tonight. Day of reckoning for Comey is definitely on the horizon, so it seems. Joining us now with more reaction is Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, author of the upcoming new book, Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest man